a laser is a coherent light source. So where the photons have been, you know, put in coherency with each other so that they become like they, you know, it's an adding energy process so that you get like a coherent beam, right? In electromagnetic radiation. And so, you know, as opposed to a diffuse beam, you know, if you'd like to think of it that way. Um, so it's so you can think of space-time as Planck oscillators, right? So you all know that because you've taken the delegate program, right? And so photon can be applied, the photonic analogy can be applied to Planck spherical units as, you know, Planck photons. And you can think of the Planck field as a plasma field, like, so a vacuum plasma, right? And so you can imagine that you can make technology that interacts with the Planck field. I mean, everything is interacting with the Planck field already. So like, just so we're clear, and you know, the physicists and engineers out there don't pull their hair out. How do I interact with something that's 10 to minus 33 centimeter, right? And that's oscillating at like, you know, and I'm saying that you can, that already everything is interacting with it at the much larger scale of the proton. But if you get the protons in collective behavior, you can create larger events in the vacuum, you know, just like a magnet creates a larger event when it puts all its magnetic fields all aligned together. So they create coherency. So the key word is coherency, right? Coherent light beam is a laser, you know, cohering the atoms in the magnet is producing larger effect. So you can imagine that if I make a little technology that cohere the structure of the molecules in such a way that it can resonate and interact with the vacuum, I can create like a little focal point. And that focal point is going to produce a little orbital structure in space-time. And you can think of that little orbital vortex as like coherent Planck field, you know, coherent Planck plasma occurring at the Planck scale. And when you put the crystal in your hand, you can feel that. You can feel the little beam coming off, you know, I mean, most people do. You know, some people may not. But we've been able to measure some of it. You know, like we know it's there. We can you can do a test at home, measure it at home. You know, if you grow wheatgrass, you know, with the crystal in the middle of a you know, back of wheatgrass, you'll see, you know, like, you know, a perfect curve on the surface, like of all the wheatgrass that grew faster and then slower. And so you know, so I call it a gravitational laser because it's not, in some ways, it's not electromagnetic photons, although it is the Planck field electromagnetic photon thing. It's like the source of gravity is the Planck field orbiting, so it's like a little gravitational laser. Now, it might confuse people a little bit because you got to know a little bit physics to understand what I mean by that. It might sound like you can beam it at something and it's gonna start levitating. But it's not quite there yet. It's on its way, but it's not quite there yet.